the music school that I work at, Band Gig School of Music, 2 locations, one in Dedham and one in Norwood, has a PA system, has 2 PA systems actually, 2 identical ones. And the last time we used the PA for actually one of my shows, the Joe Hart Band, shameless plug, we had a lot of students joining us, so it's like a school, almost like a school-sponsored event. We were using the PA head here, and every time somebody stepped up to a microphone during the sound check, we were getting zapped. So that was no good. So I checked it out, and somebody had actually pulled off the little ground prong. So that's what the problem was. And I don't know if you can see, this is also pretty frayed. Nothing's sticking out. The insulation on the individual wires is still on. But I figured I'm going to see if I can fix the whole thing. So if this wasn't all frayed here, I would probably just cut this off and put a new plug onto it with some shrink wrap and everything to protect it. But since this is all frayed here, I figure I might as well see if I could take the whole thing out and just replace the whole cord. So I have this computer type power cord. So what I'm going to do is take the frayed and dismembered cord off, cut this, put this one in, and we now have a new cord. So it'll be grounded and everything. So the first thing that we're going to do with this is take the screws out so we can get to the inside. Hopefully it's a fairly easy repair. Looking at some of the screws, say on this heat sink here, there's a couple different screws. So I'm thinking somebody has already been inside this, to do whatever. Okay, so this piece, 4 screws. Yep, and that loosened it. Okay, so it's nice. It has 2 separate pieces. I don't have to take the whole thing apart. So if we lift that up, the transformer's pretty heavy. So here's where the cord goes in. So how do we get that out? That's the question. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that out. So I'm going to, just to hold that open, I'm going to check it out a little bit, see what I can do, and then I'll be right back. So the strain relief, it has, it's kind of circular, but if you look at it, it has a side, like, I guess, the bottom, looking at it from my point of view, the bottom, and 2 sides. Then on the top, there's a piece that moves. So I've been told online, if I squeeze that with a pair of pliers, I can kind of wiggle it out. So I'm going to give that a shot. And there we go. Okay, so I also found online the important thing that you don't want to do. Yeah, see, there it is. And it comes apart. The biggest thing that you don't want to do is, I don't know if you can see the little piece right there. Okay. The biggest thing that you don't want to do, actually, okay, so that's how it looks. And it goes together like that. So you squeeze that and it pulls out. The larger end is the outside, the inside is smaller to fit into the little hole in the metal chassis, whatever. What you don't want to do is use a pliers that's bigger than this, because if you get the sides of it and squash, the sides will push out and actually make it harder to remove. Okay, so we just removed that. Okay, I'm just wondering, because it's on this little clip for the power. You can see that, and it clips onto the little circuit board. And there's a ground that's on like a little, little fastener and bolted to the ground. So I'm looking at this, and I'm actually wondering if I could just clip this, clip this end of this, put some shrink wrap on it, and push it in a little further. And now the shrink wrap repaired part with all the pieces together, braided together, twisted together, will now be inside, and that might fix the whole thing. So I think I'm going to go with that idea. So what I want to do is now I'm just going to clip this off because it has to come off anyway. Oh, it's a pain in the neck. Ah, there we go. The insulation isn't cutting. It has like this white sort of like fabric material that wouldn't cut off. So I just use the scissors to trim that. So this cord is no good. Okay, so now we have this. I'm just going to take off the outside insulation. Okay, take off, see all the fibers and stuff that wouldn't cut with the wire cutters there. Okay, so now we have the 3 wires. So now the replacement cord, clip that. Oh, that came off pretty fast. Okay, so that's no good. Okay, so here we have white, black, and green. White, black, and green. It's a pretty standard operation, kind of standard situation thing. So I'm going to carefully trim off the black outer insulation. Use the edge of the scissors here because there's still a little bit that's sort of sticking. Okay, you want to be careful that you're not cutting through the insulation on the 3 wires inside. A little trickier than I thought it would be. So if you're careful, you can kind of feel it cutting the black insulation on the outside, and you can sort of feel the wire inside, so you know if you're going in too far. Okay, there's still little bits of black, and of course the proper tool would do this a lot easier. You could get like a wire stripping tool, which I don't have. Okay, I'm getting it. So there's a little piece of the black outside that's still attached. There we go. Okay, so took it off, and we have the wires inside. And a little tiny piece of that fabric stuff. We'll just trim that off. Okay, so now I'm going to strip each of these, and that'll probably take a few minutes. So I'll be back. I'm going to grab an X-Acto knife and, trim off, like, I don't know, half inch, 3/4 of an inch on all three of these, and then I'll be back. I took the insulation off these 3 wires. I'm just sort of twisting them slightly to keep all the little pieces together, and off of this end here, the replacement cord. So now, something that you definitely don't want to forget, I have shrink wrap tubing that I'm going to use to insulate all of these. And you want to make sure that you put the tubing on before you start putting the wires together, because if you forget, then you have to undo the wire to put the shrink wrap back on, and that's not fun at all. Okay, so got that on, put this one on here. Okay, it's a little tight. It was tighter in the white one, because these wires have been crimped in that little holder, so the shrink wrap just going over the crimps and stuff. And let me take that out maybe. Okay, and much like the shrink wrap tubing, if the little strain relief thing, okay, is a type that has to go on the cord, okay, then you would definitely want to put it onto the cord before, and you can just put it on and just let it slide all the way down, whatever, just so that it's already on the cord. But I think most of them are like this, where it comes apart. So after everything's done, I can put it on, put it on that way, fit it together and get it into there. So this cord seems a little thicker. It has to bend in there. Okay, so I'm sure we'll be able to do it after the fact. So anyway, now all we do is I'm connecting the green with the green. Okay, and what I like to do is put them side by side like that, twist them, okay, and then with the pliers you can really get them twisted and nice, tight, probably tighter than you can with your fingers. Twist them up nice and good so that they're not going to come apart. Okay, and then if you fold them over, then that really holds them together. And now we find out if the shrink wrap tubing was too small. I'm thinking it is. Dang it. Okay. So, I'm going to get bigger shrink wrap tubing. I'll be back. I put bigger shrink wrap tubing on. So, we're going to do the same thing. Get these 2 wrapped up. Get those 2 out of the way. These 2 wrapped up. Nice and tight. And you certainly could solder this too. Okay, sort of bend it over, that also helps to hold it, and the shrink wrap tubing goes on. Okay, as far up as I can go. Then we have this little lighter, and we shrink the tubing. You want to make sure that you're not staying in one spot. Oh, come on. Because the tubing will burn. Okay, and I like to make sure that I get on either side of where we braided the wires together nice and tight, because over the wires I don't think you necessarily need to have it, shrink wrapped, and that'll hold it nicely. Okay, so that's on there. So then we just do the rest of them. So white with white. Okay. I don't think you necessarily need to watch me do this for the 3 of them. So I'm going to turn off the camera and then I'll be back. So they're all braided together and shrink wrapped. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of electrical tape as a little extra insulation, and if you kind of get it in between, just a little extra, and it'll just help hold everything together too. Not like a big deal, but better safe than sorry. So that, and this is all going to be inside the whole chassis anyway, so whatever. Okay, so just it might take a little bit of stress off the joint, so electrical tape is stretchy, so I'm kind of stretching it as I'm going around, and that'll hold it nice and tight. Okay, so that should be good, and it even goes right back into the thing. Yay. So pretty much we should be done now. Now it's just putting this on, and it's probably going to take a couple of minutes. See if I can crimp this together. Set this on the biggest, and cram it right together. So what it does is it really crimps the cord in there. So it is hard to kind of get it back together again, but it's doable, I think. I hope. Just sort of wiggle it in there, and that's it. Okay, so it is in. So we just carefully tuck that in there. Oh, lovely. So now everybody at home is laughing at my issues here. Okay. So, getting it back together, and there we are. So now I'm just sort of positioning this back piece so that the screws are lined up. Put the screws back in. into which. That went to there. Into there. Yes. So I tried to keep track of which screw went into which of the holes. Apparently I didn't keep track very well. They're not lined up perfectly. That's the problem. There. That one. That one. Okay. And all these screws are doing is just holding the back piece on. You know, it shouldn't really have a whole lot of stress on it. So, I mean, the screws are just, you know, metal on metal. Metal sheet, like sheet metal type screws that are going in. So there we are, all back together. So we'll plug it in and try it. I'll need an extension cord. So again, I'll be back. So rather than get an extension cord, I just moved it over to here, and the power switch is right in the back, and we have power. So, of course, you know, we need to plug it in and check everything, but I'm guessing, you know, it's 3 cords, one's the ground, and obviously the other cord had the ground plug torn off, so of course it was still working without the ground plug. So there's really 2 wires that are getting it to work, the black and the white, and I'm guessing if the power came on, everything must work, unless, you know, somehow I messed up something inside. But it's getting power, so it must work. So there we go. So I hope this helped somebody. And of course you can do this for, you know, an amplifier, a PA head, you know, whatever. I mean, I can do it, you know, electronics, toasters, you know, whatever. It's a very simple procedure. So, hope it helped.